Dobra večer, poštovani dragi gledatelji, dobrodošli nakon ljetne stanke u još jedan 1 na 1. Počinjemo novu sezonu i naš prvi gost, njegova ekscelencija, veleposlanik Države Izrael u Republici Hrvatskoj, Ilan Mor. Dobra vam večer i dobrodošli.
Dobro večer, hvala puno.
Hvala vama na vašem vremenu i odazivu i drago mi je da sa vama počinjemo ovu sezonu. Imamo velik povod, više od 2 desetljeća, 23 godine od uspostave diplomatskih odnosa Države Izrael i Republike Hrvatske. I tim povodom i vi ste bili nazočni u Izraelu sa našim ministrom vanjskih poslova. Tamo su ministri vanjskih poslova uspostavili formalnu platformu za razvijanje bilateralnih odnosa. Naravno, postoje tu i druge aktivnosti o kojima ćemo govoriti, ali počnemo od toga. Kakvi su, po vašem sudu, bilateralni današnji odnosi, da ne kompliciram, Izraela i Hrvatske, i recite nam možda nešto više o onome što se u backstage-u događalo.
Well, first of all, let me congratulate you for the new season of one-on-one, and I'm very happy and honored to be here tonight. As for your question, I think that we can be very satisfied by looking back regarding the development of our bilateral relations. The relations are developing very positively. We are trying to make the bilateral relations not to concentrate only on politics, but over and above topics which are in mutual interest between our two countries, be it in the economy, be it science and technology and culture and sport and research and development. So all those topics which are important to the societies of the two countries, which can also develop the societies to a better future. Behind the scene, I think everyone knows about the beginning of our relation. It was not easy to establish the bilateral relations, but why to look in the past? I think we diplomats and politicians should bear in mind the past, but look very, very carefully and very clear to the future in order to make this bilateral relation a better one. We have signed all the agreements that two friendly countries can sign, and we are about to sign, for example, a memorandum of understanding between the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Jerusalem and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs here in Zagreb, which will bring the relations between the two ministries and between the two countries to an upper and new level. We have all the agreements that we have signed. We continue to implement them for the benefits of the two countries. So I think that being here as an ambassador of Israel, I can on one hand be very satisfied with the relations. On the other hand, I'm not sitting idle because I have so many programs to advance and to implement together with our partners and friends, the Croatian ministry, government, and also NGOs, non-governmental organizations.
Spomenuli ste ovaj memorandum. Recite nam nešto više, budući da on nosi ipak u sebi, u nazivu, jednu značajnu riječ. Riječ je o tom strateškom partnerstvu. U kojem smislu strateškom partnerstvu? Memorandum o razumijevanju strateškom partnerstvu i tako dalje. I ta riječ strateško u tom memorandumu daje mu težinu.
Well, absolutely. The word maybe sounds very big, strategic, but actually this symbolizes the fact that both countries have the same intention to bring, as I said, the relations to an upper level. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, both ministries, are going to cooperate with political dialogue. We are going to cooperate, for example, and this is strategic, in development assistance. Croatia and Israel will approach one of the countries in the neighborhood, in the Balkan, in the Western Balkan, in order to offer our assistance in topics which are important to them. So this is a combination of forces, knowledge of Croatia, the knowledge of Israel regarding, for example, water management. We will cooperate together for the benefit of a third country. This is strategic. I can give you more examples, dialogues on the various levels between our two ministries, between the Director General of the Minister and the Political Director here in Zagreb. So we have a long list of things which we would like to cooperate, which our partners and friends, the Croatian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, would like to have from us, for example. Israel Foreign Ministry has become very well known regarding digital diplomacy. If you look at our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram accounts, we as the ministry are the #1 ministry in the world, and many other ministries of foreign affairs would like to see and to learn from us how did we do it. Also, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs here in Croatia, it's not that we are better than the Croatian Foreign Ministry, it's a win-win situation, it's a cooperation between us. And in this regard, we are going to bring our expert here. Your people will go to Israel to be trained, to be taught how to do better public diplomacy for the benefits of a better image of Croatia. So this is strategic. This is definitely strategic memorandum of understanding.
Odlukom izraelske vlade Hrvatska je od, mislim, 16. kolovoza u statusu zelene države. Pogledao sam da provjerim, ne volim.
Green card.
Od 16. kolovoza, da. Slabije vidim, pa ne znam da li je 10. ili 16. Recite mi, koliko zapravo Izraelci, kad govorimo o tom statusu, poznaju Hrvatsku, da li zaziru od putova u Hrvatsku, da li rado odlaze?
Well, green country, this is regarding the pandemic. It means that those Israelis who are living in Israel and coming as tourists or business people to Croatia, when they come back to Israel, they don't need to go into 14 days of self-isolation. When I was in Israel at the beginning of August, I had to go to self-isolation for 14 days. But in the middle, Croatia was declared, as you said, as a green country. So my 14 days of self-isolation was cut shorter. As far as your question is concerned, many Israelis know a lot about Croatia, mainly regarding tourism in Croatia. I know I'm not going to tell any secret when I will quote my Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Ashkenazi, who told me when we met a couple of weeks ago that he has been to Croatia more than 100 times because he is a skipper. And he sailed along the Adriatic coast of Croatia 100 times and more. But he would like very much to come to inland Croatia, to continental Croatia, to learn and to see more of Croatia. And I'm sure that in the...
Jeste se vozili sa njime, ali dobar skiper.
No, but I guess he was the chief of staff of Israel.
Sasvim sigurno je, kad je toliko puta bio samo u Hrvatskom moru. Recite mi, tijekom, dakle, ovih susreta posebno se diskutirao zapravo odnos Izraela i Evropske unije. U Hrvatskoj, po prirodi stvari, dakle, jasno da je to tema koja je gotovo svakodnevno i politički, medijski, naravno prisutna i nešto što je u hrvatskoj javnosti, ono što se podrazumijeva. Ali recite nam nešto više o odnosu Izraela spram Evropske unije.
Yeah, but to complete my answer to your previous question as far as what Israelis know about Croatia, as I said, they know a lot about Croatia from the touristic point of view. They know not enough regarding the other topic of potentials in Croatia to invest. They don't know enough about the good human capital here in Croatia. So we would like to expose Croatia as much as we can. To bring Israelis as tourists, but also as investors.
Tko je tu više kriv, da kažem, ili, ajde, ljepše rečeno, što možemo mi više napraviti da se i to sazna o nama u Izraelu? Što po vašem mišljenju treba Hrvatska činiti? Da li naši privrednici trebaju biti prisutni više u Izraelu, naša gospodarska diplomacija?
Well, the economic diplomacy of Israel should and can be more active in this regard. There is no doubt that seeing is believing. When Croatian entrepreneurs go privately or within an organized group to Israel, this is much better than to bring our expert here and to give them theoretical lectures about the potential in Israel. As I said, when you are in Israel, Israel is ready to show, to present the potential that we have to offer. And every businessman from Croatia can just take his pick and decide what is good for him, because Israel nowadays is known in the world as an innovation state, as a high-tech state, as a country which is very well advanced in science and technology. And we are ready to cooperate as equals, as partners with everyone, especially now I am in Croatia, with Croatian entrepreneurs. I have very good relations with the Chamber of Economy. I have very good relations with the various economic ministries. Professor Primorac is the president of the Croatian-Israel business delegation. I hope that there will be another chance for sending a big delegation to Israel. So we are working. It's not a sprint. It's a kind of a marathon. It's stage after stage to break kind of an image of Israel being a country which is involved only in terrorism and in conflicts, and also to break an image for Croatia as being only a touristic horde. No, Croatia, to my humble opinion, is more than a touristic place. It's a wonderful city, a wonderful country with beautiful views and places to visit, but it's not all Croatia. It has more to offer those who would like to take the opportunities. Coming back to your question regarding...
Hvala vam na takvom mišljenju i to je zaista produktivno mišljenje. Vratimo se ovom odnosu Izraela i Europske unije. Postoji jedan program ovoga koji se tiče trećih zemalja, Obzor. Recite nam nešto više o njemu.
Well, I will. The relation between Israel and the European Union, Israel is not a member of the European Union, but our relation with Brussels has exceeded over and above any other relations of any other countries in many, many issues, because we have the same interests. Actually, we have the same roots. You leave Croatia, you fly to Israel, you leave Europe, and you stay in Europe, Tel Aviv and Israel and Jerusalem. So our mutual interests between Israel, the mutual interests between Israel and the European Union are very, very big, very wide, and we are cooperating from science and technology, and I will answer the question in a minute. But I would like to make sure that, to clear one thing, that even though we are not members of the European Union, and we have great relations in almost every field, from economy to science and technology and fighting terrorism and anti-Semitism, there is one issue which overshadows our good relation. And this is a kind of mantra coming from Brussels and from the European Union, the Middle East peace process. The pressure on Israel to stop the occupation, create a Palestinian state, and then we can live happily ever after. They forget to see the security needs of Israel. They do not pay too much attention to the fact that we are the only democracy in the Middle East which is surrounded by so many enemies that we cannot, even for 1 second, neglect the security needs of Israel. Living in Europe, which has been living in peace for so many years after the big tragedy of the Holocaust and the Second World War, made the European Union a little bit blind regarding what is the meaning of being under constant threat and attack. So in this regard, we don't have a good dialogue between us as we should have. We have two monologues, talking to each other, over each other, and we cannot reach an agreement. And this, as I said, overshadows our very good relations and block the development of our relations in science and technology and all other fields. And this also creates a situation in which the citizens of Europe cannot enjoy too much the benefits of the State of Israel. Regarding this...
Zato ovaj program jednostavno pruža ne samo šanse da se ta situacija mijenja, nego on i sljedećim generacijama pruža mogućnost drugačijeg percipiranja odnosa Izraela i Europske unije, pogotovo Evropljanima koji, kao što kažete, vodeći taj jedan paralelan monolog, često ne razumijevaju poziciju Izraela u svom okružju.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. And Israel has been participating in the various research and development programs of the European Union as a third country, as an associate country. We are not a member. Horizon 2020, Erasmus, and other programs. And the European Union understands very well the quality of our research and development coming from Israel. And that's why we extended our cooperation to the maximum. Now on the agenda is another program called Horizon Europe, which some countries have doubt regarding the participation of third countries. Croatia supports the participation of Israel without any change in the status quo. And for this, we are very much thankful and we appreciate. We need to hear voices like friendly countries like Croatia telling to the ministers of science and technology of the European Union, Israel must stay in this program. As I said, we appreciate the support of Croatia very much.
Ja sam upoznat, imam cijeli niz prijatelja u Izraelu, spomenuo sam jednog koji je upravo IT stručnjak i znam potencijale i sadašnjosti Izraela kada je riječ zapravo o toj industriji. Kažite mi, postoji li tu mogućnost jačanja odnosa ovih bilateralnih suradnje, razmjene iskustava i znanja na relaciji Hrvatska-Izrael i usput, naravno da proširim to pitanje, osim u IT industriji, gdje još vidite najrealnije, recimo u ekonomiji, u privredi, gospodarstvu, tu šansu?
Well, this is a very wide question, but very important one. I do believe that he or those who do not innovate are doomed to stay behind. I think the name of the game nowadays, especially nowadays in the 21st century, is innovation.
Uvijek je tako bilo. Europa je bila laboratorija ideje i kad to sad prestaje na neki način biti ili posustaje, počinju problemi. Imate potpuno pravo.
Yeah, thank you. So Israel has learned for many years now that we have to innovate, we have to think in a different way, because the status quo is actually a setback. If you maintain the status quo, it is a setback for you in the economy and also in science and technology. So we started to become an innovation state, which we are now, based on various values, which we learn through the hard way. First of all, necessity. Israel is very poor regarding natural resources. Not enough water, no oil, no gas. Half of this country is a desert. But we have an element, a resource, which is very important, which is the human capital. So we decided from the very beginning to invest in this. That's why we dedicate every year 4 to 5% from our GDP to science and technology, 8% to education. It doesn't mean that we are the best in the world. No, we have a lot to invest in order to be the best in the world. But every government decided to invest in the human capital, in the people. We have another element. We have the army, we have the defense industry, we have the universities. These universities provided in the last 20 years 10 Nobel Prize winners in chemistry and economy and biology and medicine.
Just eat them.
Well, thank you. Again, we are not the best. We have a lot to correct ourselves. But in this field, one can be very proud. And I am, as an Israeli, I'm very proud of. So we have a combination of which creates an ecosystem which is very conducive, very positive for those who would like to be entrepreneurs, those who would like to create a startup. There are, on average, 6,000 different size of startups in Israel. The government is also supporting the idea. So since I came here almost 2 years ago, I have been selling the ecosystem of Israel everywhere, hoping that we can also cooperate. And once there is a desire, and there is a desire by various ministries in Croatia to learn from us, we'll be more than happy to cooperate as partners, as equal partners. So the ecosystem of Israel has made us in the field of innovation and high-tech what we are. You ask about other issues in the field of IT, artificial intelligence, AI. Israel is a little bit lagging behind, but we are going to gap the gap regarding AI. There will be a national council which will be responsible for for setting up a policy regarding AI in Israel, as we did with the cyber. Cyber and cybersecurity is also the name of the future, in which we have been starting to cooperate. We signed a memorandum of understanding 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. The Ministry of the Interior was in Israel and we signed the agreement. So there are a lot of things which we can cooperate together. But for me, it's very important that the young people of Croatia will learn, we look at Israel as a role model. You cannot cut and paste and take from Israel and put it here and hope that everything will be okay. No, but we can be, Israeli entrepreneurs, Israeli people who started from zero and became very successful, they can be a role model for the Croatian young entrepreneurs, those who would like to be entrepreneurs. And that's why, again, in this case, go to Israel, meet with them, we can organize it, learn from them, and the rest is in your hands. If you are good, you will be successful. If you fail, don't be discouraged. Try again.
Da, naravno, nije sramota pasti, treba se ustati. Recite mi, kad se pomaknemo od bilaterale, imamo jednu krasnu zapravo temu, a to je ovaj sporazum o normalizaciji odnosa između države Izrael i arapskih zemalja. Prvo, ja također čestitam na potpisivanju toga sporazuma. Hrvatska je potpuno, mislim da je to izuzetno važno za cijeli svijet. Hrvatska je u potpunosti podržala taj sporazum. Malo nam skicirajte situaciju oko tog sporazuma, njegove konsekvence, na koje se okruže, a onda ćemo doći na onu sjenu, na one koji to možda i nadobravaju ili uopće ne odobravaju, ali i njih ćemo spomenuti pa da vidimo gdje su problemi.
Well, this is very typical for the Middle East. You cannot be totally happy, 100% happy without being a little bit sad. But I think tomorrow night in Washington is going to be a very special and historic day. For the first time in the history of the Middle East, Israel, the only democracy and the only Jewish state in the Middle East, will sign a peace agreement and peace understanding with two Arab nations. If you ask me a couple of years ago, this would have been a dream. And for me as a diplomat, knowing that my colleagues, and I know who were very instrumental in building up this day tomorrow for many years, I'm very proud that I am part of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs who did it. Not alone, with others, but we played a very important role. This day is historic because it breaks a psychological barrier in the Middle East, in the psychic of the people of the Middle East. Israel is no longer the problem in the Middle East. Israel is the solution for many, many issues. The solution for water technology, for IT, for innovation, for economic businesses and contracts. It's a win-win situation for us and for the Arab world. On top of it, you talked about criticism. This breaks also the veto power which the Palestinians have put on the normalization of relations between Israel and other Arab countries, moderate countries, Sunni moderate countries. All for the last 72 years, the Palestinian problem has been there, overshadowing the desire of ours, both sides, to have peace. Because with the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain, we never had a war between us. So why not to normalize the relation? But all of them were kind of a hostage by the Palestinian problem, which now, by signing this relation without dealing with the Palestinian problem, we break the veto power of the Palestinians. This is not to say, and this is very important to add, that we are going to neglect the Palestinians and we are not going to deal with it. On the contrary, I always say that the Israelis and the Palestinians are doomed to live together. We have no other alternative. No other alternative. We are not going anywhere. The Jewish people are not going anywhere. The Palestinians are not going to disappear. So the only options that we have is to live together. The question is how? There is one element which for us is very important, which is the security. We did what we did in 2005 in Gaza. We unilaterally withdrew from Gaza. We uprooted 20 settlements and brought them back to mainland Israel. And what did we get in return? Constant Katyushas and terror activities against our people. We cannot do it in the West Bank. This is a no-go. We cannot do it. We have to find a solution to our security needs and the political aspiration of the Palestinians. In order to start doing it, let's talk. But Abu Mazen and the leadership of the Palestinians refuse to talk to us.
Ne samo da. Hamas je reagirao tako da je to nazvao opet služenjem cionističkom režimu i sličan, dakle, rekvizitar i taj retorički je korišten. Kako to tumačite? Naprosto to tako mora biti. Nemate šta kazati. Da, to...
No.
Mislim, hoću kazati, to je naprosto ta sjena koja je uvijek ovoga prisutna.
You're absolutely right by raising the question, this must be like this? No. Hamas, a terrorist organization, has put in its basic charter the destruction of the state of Israel. And I ask myself, why? Why?
Koji je vaš odgovor?
They don't want to see the presence of a Jewish entity in the Middle East. They do not recognize the right of the Jewish people for a homeland in the land of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the land of our ancestors. As simple as that. And for this, for them, political objection is not enough. They are using every trick in the book of terrorism in order to make us go away. Well, we have a surprise for them. We're not going away. We suffer, no doubt about it, but we are too strong that for this kind of terror organization, or for that matter, Hezbollah in Lebanon, to destroy Israel and to chase us out of the Middle East.
Njima ćemo posvetiti jedno posebno pitanje, dopustite mi. Ali prije toga da se vratimo možda najkrupnijoj toj sjeni koja se nadvija nad sigurnošću Izraela. To je zapravo impostiranje i jačanje Irana kao regionalne sile. Kakav oblik međunarodnog dogovora ili dogovora međunarodne zajednice sa Teheranom bi riješio Izraelu taj problem i kakav bi vama dogovor zapravo bio prihvatljiv? Jer posve očito da je Izrael ta prva prijetnja, pardon, da je Iran prva prijetnja, Izraelu izravno ili u nekim proksi varijantama.
This is a very important question, and I thank you for raising it. This is very serious for Israel, but not only. We are not alone in this game.
Ne, dobro, to je pitanje svjetskog mira. Kad se proširi kadar, doći ćemo i do toga, do ambicije Irana da se uspostavi jedna šitska zapravo, eto, šitski kontinuum koji bi onda i tekako rekonfigurirao odnose na Bliskom istoku.
You're absolutely right. Iran is a fundamentalist country ruled by fundamentalist zealots, religious zealots, extremists, who would like to export the so-called Iranian revolution which started in 1979 with Khomeini. Luckily for us, they haven't been that successful. The only place they could export their revolution is southern Lebanon with the Hezbollah. Iran, with this fundamentalistic way of thinking, together with a nuclear weapon, together with delivery system, meaning long-range missiles, ballistic missiles, being involved in subversion activities in the Gulf of the Persian Gulf and area, also in Israel, or neighboring Israel, in Lebanon and in Gaza. Make all those components together, you put it in one pot, you have an explosive situation. Iran should not be able to produce a nuclear weapon. Basta. And if you ask me what will satisfy us, is Iran will stop and come clean, totally clean to the world regarding its activities in the nuclear field, regarding its activities in the ballistic missile program that they have. They have to stop supporting by proxies terrorist organizations, which are a threat not only to Israel, but also to Bahrain, to the United Arab Emirates, and other countries within this area, Saudi Arabia, its activities in Yemen against Saudi Arabia. To make it short, Iran, in order to become again a member of the world community, should come clean, should open all its nuclear facilities for the check of the IAEA, for the world to see that they are not cheating anymore. Because ever since the beginning of the 2000s, Iran has been cheating and lying regarding its activities in the nuclear field. Iran has been playing a game of cat and mouse with the IAEA, with the world community, and unfortunately, this agreement, the JCPOA, has created a situation which, luckily for us, the United States has changed, in which in a couple of years, in 10 to 15 years, Iran will be free to develop a nuclear weapon without any sanctions. Now, the Trump administration has decided to start a policy or to snap back the sanctions on Iran. Within 20 days or 30 days, it will start again, and to implement a policy which is called maximum pressure on the Iranian regime and the Iranian state. Only this can prevent Iran from producing the nuclear weapon, which is a threat not only to us, only to the southern part of Europe. So Iran must stop its activities, come clean, and then we'll see what can be done regarding this country. Because Israel has nothing against the Iranian people. There were times before 1979 that we have excellent relations. We go back into the old times of the Bible. Cyrus was the king who allowed to build the Second Temple for the Jews coming from Persia at that time.
Da, ali nasmijao sam se sad, oprostite prvo što vam upadam u riječ, ali kad ste kod ove evokacije, dakle, biblijskih vremena, rađa se možda potencijalno nešto što prvi put nakon Kira Velikog Iran impostira kao silu koja od Sredozemlja preko, dakle, Iraka, onda tu je Sirija, pa sve do Jemena, spominjali smo, ne, gradi jedan šiitski kontinuum. Kad sam sa vašom prethodnicom razgovarao sa prekrasnom gospođom Zitom, onda sam upravo to pitanje dosta dugo diskutirao. Je li u toj perspektivi od 15 godina moguće da se jednostavno etablira jedan takav šiitski prostor?
It is the continuation of the dream of Iran of today to create a Shiite crescent, starting from Lebanon, going over Syria, Iraq, and Iran. Actually, nowadays, if you come to think about it, the presence of Iranian Mujahideens in Syria and the pro-Shiite militia in Syria, together with Hezbollah and together with the activities in Iran, they have created actually a border with Israel. Israel is facing not only the border with Lebanon, which is quite limited, but a very extended border which goes all the way to Tehran. Nowadays, you can send a truck loaded with missiles, very precise missiles, or whatever you want to send from Tehran to Hezbollah on one way, which goes uninterrupted all the way to southern Lebanon.
Dajte recite, molim vas, nešto sad o tom rekao sam da ćemo Hezbollahu i to je taj problem. To su stotine tisuća, mislim oko 400 tisuća raketa u kojekakvim podzemnim, tako je procena barem, koliko možda griješim, ali taj podatak koji ja raspolažem unazad 2 godine. Ti projektili mogu napraviti katastrofu, recimo da pogode rafinerije, ravnu atomskoj bombi. Mislim da ne pretjerujem. I ekološki na svaki mogući način. Recite mi, kako riješiti problem Hezbollah kao produžene ruke Teherana?
Well, it is a fact that Hezbollah is an extended arm of Iran. This is a fact.
Ne moramo se razgovarati uvijeno.
Yeah, but sometimes for the future, I think it's very important to remind them that Hezbollah is not an entity by itself, but it's an extended arm and very active extended arm of Iran in our area. Yes, there is a big threat created by the hundreds of thousands of missiles aimed at strategic infrastructures, facilities in Israel. We know this. We know exactly where they are. Prime Minister Netanyahu last year in the United Nations presented the world the fact that the Hezbollah is having its facilities also in the international airport of Beirut. So actually Hezbollah is controlling Lebanon practically. So we know where the missiles are, and Hezbollah knows that the minute they start, the Lebanon itself will suffer a lot. We see the government of Lebanon as responsible for the behavior of Hezbollah, and whatever happens against us, unfortunately, they will pay the price. So Hezbollah is not stupid. We never underestimate our enemies. We did it once in 1973, and we paid the price. No more. We appreciate
Znate s kime imate posla.
Yeah. What we know, as I said, we appreciate our enemies. We don't underestimate them, but let them also know that they should not underestimate Israel. We can protect our citizens. We will suffer, but there will be a very heavy price for those who will attack us. In the meantime, we don't see any immediate interest of Hezbollah to start a war again, because Hezbollah is aware of the fact that we are strong enough to sustain this attack and also to counterattack, and the damage that will be inflicted on Hezbollah and the surroundings and in Lebanon itself, it's cost effective. It doesn't worse for Hezbollah to do it.
Poznajemo se, mislim, dovoljno da vi znadete da izbjegavam žutilo i tako vrste pitanja, ali zbog naših gledatelja. Postoje interpretacije koje govore o tome da je ovo u Beirutu zapravo obračun Izraela sa jednim dijelom zapravo, eto, asortimana Jasesovara Hezbollah. Jel to ima ikakve veze? Da, u redu.
This is...
Teorije urote.
Please help me to find a word to describe it. This is nonsense. Israel was among the very first countries to offer its assistance, and there is a situation of war between Israel and Lebanon. And look at us, Israelis. Without bearing in mind that Lebanon is our enemy, we offered, as a humanitarian gesture, offered to help. It was rejected offhand immediately by the Lebanese, but you never know. Maybe behind the scene there was some help. We helped the UNIFIL soldiers there and other embassies. So to think that we did this in order to, this is really nonsense. And there are so many conspiracy theories now in the world. I cannot fight it, you know. I know what Israel is good at, and we are good at showing our humanitarian face. Not all the time, but when there is a need, we are there.
Svakako je potreba pomoći svijetu i kad je riječ o ovoj pandemiji. Prije nego što vas pitam koje je stanje istraživanja vakcina, recimo u Izraelu, pitaću vas zapravo nešto puno ranije. Kako ste se vi u Izraelu suočili već prvih dana i kako je tekao eto taj zapravo slijed okolnosti i događaja kad se Izrael suočio sa COVID-19?
Well, we were, I think, in January, we were among the very first country to stop the flights from China, totally. And we started very much to look into the pandemic, into the virus, in order to find out what's going on. Nobody knew about it. It's a mystery even today. It's still a mystery, but there is no doubt that after 8 months we know much more than we knew at the beginning. So we started to take very severe measures against the virus. The Prime Minister has been almost daily on public television and also private television, motivating the people to take all necessary precautions, washing your hands, putting a mask, etc. Kind of the national mentor, which was very much needed because, as I said, nobody knew what's going on. Everyone was scared. So he played the role of a national mentor, trying to relax the people and give them instructions. We were also preparing, as far as the economic aspect of this pandemic, a lot of reserves in order to take care of our economy. And then we came in April to a lockdown, especially when during Passover or Easter. No. We locked down for 2 weeks, and this gave a very negative impact on our economy. But it did the work. I mean, we managed to bring the graph almost to zero, to 1-on-1. The R was in Israel 1. It means one person infected one person, and that's it. And then we opened too quickly, too wide, and the people thought, well, hallelujah, it's finished. Now we can go and have fun. But it was, as I said, too early and too wide, the opening, without taking precautions, without being prepared for the second wave, which we knew will come. And unfortunately it came, and it caught us not by surprise, but it hit very, very severely. We are now on the average of 3,000 new infected people a day. What is a bit of a comfort is the number of those fatalities, those who passed away, is steady. Those who are in a severe condition is also steady. The number of those who are on respirators is minimum and steady. So we don't see a big rise in this.
Kako rješavate te oprečne zahtjeve koje su svugdje u svijetu prisutni? S jedne strane zahtjeve za osiguranjem svega onoga što je neophodno čuvanju zdravlja građana, a sa druge strane zahtjev za očuvanjem zdrave ili, ako hoćete, barem one dinamike ekonomije koja ne bi imala nesagledive posljedice, pa i gore no što su ove koje je prouzrokovala pandemija. Kako, dakle, balansirate između ekonomije i pandemije?
It's not easy to do it, but based on the fact that before the pandemic, our economy was very good, very stable. Our inflation was almost zero. Unemployment was 5.3 or maybe less. Our GDP was really high, and all the other indicators were very positive. So based upon this, we managed to sustain this shock, economic shock that we had because of the close down, the closure and the close down. And we were managed to give support to various private sector and also for the public sector, but mainly the private sector was the one which was hit the most. So we have been helping to those restaurant owners, to hotels and other small and medium-sized companies in order to survive and to keep their head above the water regarding this. And we managed to do it, but then now we have a second wave, and unfortunately at the end of this week, Israel is going for a second closure, close down for 2 weeks. Luckily for us, it's in between not luckily, but it's in between the Jewish holidays in which anyway nobody's working, so the damage will be a minimum this time. But I think everything depends on the behavior of the people. We in the Middle East, Israel is considered to be a country which discipline is not number one quality.
Razumijemo se.
So, as I said, once the first wave was over, everyone was happy. Let's make fun, and it was too early to close. Now, the people understand that this is not a flu, this is not influenza, this is serious. And you will see in Israel, it's mandatory to go with a mask. It's mandatory to maintain the social distance. It's mandatory to maintain your hygiene, like in Croatia. And I hope our people learn the lessons.
Ekscelenco, što ćemo s avionima?
Oh, well. By the way, remaining in the pandemic, Israel is also part of an international group, without going into too many details, which are looking for the vaccination. And I hope that good news will come from Israel too. Israel is not alone. We are working together. The world has become a global also in this regard. There is no competition who will be the first. There is a cooperation.
Nije ni važno. Važno je da se vakcina napravi.
Airplanes.
Da, to ja vas pitam.
Well, we participate in the second bid of the Croatian government. Last week we presented our offer. And as I told one of my friends from the Croatian government, let the best one win. I think that I don't have to tell the Croatian audience about the quality of our Air Force, about the quality of our pilots, about the quality of our technology. I think they speak for themselves. And we are ready to share it with Croatia. And if, with God help, we will be the one to sell or will be elected or selected to sell our airplanes, I think it's a win-win situation for Croatia, Israel and the United States, because this time our offer is coordinated to the end, to absolutely 100% with the United States, with Lockheed Martin.
Tu sam pri kraju emisije, imamo 3-4 minute i prije jednog lijepog pitanja za kraj. Moram pitati i ono što je u Europi najružnije i što je bilo najružnije unazad stoljeća i stoljeća. Kad živite danas, ne znam gdje ste sve živjeli po Europi, ali kad vidite današnju Europu, sigurno putujete, u kojoj mjeri prisutan antisemitizam? Meni je bio, jako često imam, dakle, sugovornike koji dolaze ili iz Izraela ili Rabi Margolin iz Brisela, Rabi Pini Zaklas mi je bio, da se ne nabrajam. Diskutirali smo često tu tematiku, ali htio bih vas čuti, evo, kao veleposlanika, u kojoj mjeri je zapravo danas jednostavno vama kao Židovu u Europi na neki način nelagodno u svom identitetu i koliko taj antisemitizam se danas ponovo budi i prijeti?
Look, anti-Semitism is a disease. It's a chronic disease. It's everywhere. It's not going to disappear. It's everywhere. It's in the United States. It's in Europe. I think the only place which you don't find anti-Semitism is China. But anti-Semitism is all over the world. And as I said, it has become a virus, kind of a chronic virus, which we have to take care of. We have to contain it. We cannot overcome it, unfortunately, but at least we have to try. In Europe, like in the United States, there is anti-Semitism. And for what I hear, I'm not an example because as an ambassador, I do not come to places which I can feel it. But sometimes I lived in Europe many years, 9 years in Germany and 5 years in Hungary. Europe is my second home, so to speak. So I know that there is a basic latent anti-Semitism, which sometimes become very open anti-Semitism. All those who are concerned, like you, like me, like other good people in Croatia and everywhere, should come together in order to fight this pandemic of anti-Semitism. There is no other way. And the number one issue is obrazovanje, education.
I sad za kraj, ipak nešto ljepše, samo u jednoj riječi. Kada bih ja sad sutra poželio ići u Izrael, što biste mi rekli vi osobno da svakako posjetim? Osim onih tradicionalnih mjesta.
Tel Aviv. And then you go to Beersheba, to the south, to the desert. And then you go to the north, to the Sea of Galilee. And then you go to Jerusalem. But you start with a place in which you can have good life, and then you move to Jerusalem, which you can have spiritual life. So Tel Aviv is for the body, and Jerusalem is for the soul. A combination which no one can defeat.
Hvala vam lijepo na vašem gostovanju, hvala lijepo na vašem vremenu, dragi gledatelji, hvala vama što ste bili sa nama. Gledajte nas naravno i sljedeće srijede. Do tada, lijep pozdrav, doviđenja.